What's up, James here. Today I'm going to be talking to you about this book, Noumenon Infinity by Marina J. Lostetter. This is the sequel to Noumenon, which I've done a review for on the channel already, so if you really are interested in that, obviously go and check that out. This review is spoiler free for as much as I can make it. Obviously it's a sequel, so we're not going to be talking too much, but I'll give you the basic premise of the plot anyway. Following on from where Noumenon original left off, the next book follows the continuing adventures of Convoy 7, which is the cast of characters from the original, and also we go back in time to the start of the Noumenon experience, I suppose you could say, to follow a different convoy, Convoy 12. Convoy 12 is the littlest convoy. It's known as the smallest funded project, and they encounter some form of accident in space which blasts them several 100,000 years out of their own time and space. So they're in a bit of a pickle because they don't have sustainability or anything like the other convoys do. We do also follow Convoy 7 throughout a lot of the book as well, just as they continue to explore the mysteries of the megastructure found in the original Noumenon. So that is the basic premise. Now, this book is absolutely fantastic. I really like the original Noumenon, but I think, for my money, I think the sequel is, in a lot of ways, better. The idea behind the sort of Noumenon duology, I can't see it going on longer than a duology at this point. I think the idea behind the Noumenon duology was to do a truly representative science fiction series, which is something you don't really see too much of, even with things like Dune or the Culture series, like where there's all these different sort of possibilities for ethnicities and things like that. You know, we don't get a lot of that because a lot of them are more or less fictitious galaxies by the point we get there. But the great thing about Noumenon is it is a real Planet United kind of deal. You know, the premise of the book series is that Earth came together and everyone is a part of this thing. So there's lots of characters that are a central focus to the story, and almost all of them are of people of colour, or they've got different sexualities or genders. There's transgender characters, and it all plays really well. I think Marina Lostetter did a fantastic job of taking into account these cultural differences, not just you know, the surface level, saying, oh, you know, this guy's Asian, this guy's Hispanic. You know, she took real care into thinking about how these differences are going to impact their different experiences on the crew. For example, this is like the tiniest of spoil. I'm going to talk about this in the most spoiler-free way I possibly can. There comes up in the book the theme of transhumanism, which is obviously advancing humanity to something that wouldn't be recognizable anymore as human, right? And there's this big debate amongst the crew about whether that is good or if it makes them less than human and if they should preserve humanity or whatever. And there is, as I say, there's a transgender character on the crew to begin with, and the chapter that this debate happens in is from that person's perspective, and they have a unique perspective to give on this debate because of their experiences as trans. It's a way that it's just a small example of how Lostetter has taken these ideas, he's taken these characters and their differences and made them part of the story rather than making the story about their differences. You know, so yeah, like there are other examples I can give, but I don't want to go on too long about it because it's going to be getting into spoilers and things. So the writing style is fantastic. There's like each chapter is told from a different POV, but what we had in the original Noumenon was each chapter was from a different person's POV, but you also had POVs from ICC, which is the inter-convoy computers, like an AI character, which obviously is great because that character sort of remains in real time. Like, I think it's really important for these books because they basically, the structure of them is they jump forward in time by vast amounts, sort of ever increasing amounts actually. Like in the original, like they would jump forward maybe 10, 20 years, something like that, because obviously their mission was deemed to be a lot shorter. This one spans decades, centuries, millennia. Like it goes a long way. Like the time jumps are significant, and as a result of that, it's important to have at least a focus that is more grounded and like more real timey, just to give you like an anchor point, right? So in the original, it's ICC, who is obviously the AI character, is immortal, so they don't need to be cloned. They don't really change. They experience these events as they happen. So that you have more of a grounding with them. You know, they are more focused on what's going on. They're not so wrapped up in their individual story. It kind of ties everything together. In Noumenon Infinity, that is the role played by Convoy 12. So Convoy 7 is obviously still out there in space doing their adventures. So they're jumping around all over the place. We catch up with them, clone after clone, and it's decades, centuries, millennia sometimes apart. And Convoy 12, it happens over the course of 1 year because they are stranded in space, and they've got to just deal with that. And the way I was really worried for a little while that these stories would not overlap in a satisfying way, but ultimately the way that it was all tied together in the end was just stunningly well done, and the ending is really poignant and leaves a lot of questions for, you know, what is the future of the human race and all that kind of good science stuff. It doesn't leave open questions. Like, I'm not thinking like, oh, this wasn't wrapped up properly, I want a sequel. No, the story ended in a place where I think it needed to end. Do I think Marina could do a sequel? Probably they could. Like, if she really wants to, I'm sure she'd think of something. I think it's unnecessary and probably would diminish the story at this stage and would be best to serve just writing something else. No harm in that. Sometimes you don't need a book series to be 6 million books long. All of the characters in here were really good. It's difficult. This was the thing with the original Noumenon as well. It's a balancing act because even though the characters are clones, they're shaped by their experiences at the time as well. So when you're getting all of this history with the crew and how their society develops and changes over time, you're getting people, the same characters, like the same character with the same name, with a different, completely different sort of perspective and characterization. And it would have been so easy. I think it adds an interesting layer to these characters. Like, they undergo radical shifts, and there's a chapter towards the end of the book where the shift is like incredibly radical, and it's like, whoa, this is like a side of the crew that we've not seen before, but it's interesting. And it's just a really interesting way to tell a story because it is very vignette based still, especially with like Convoy 7 stuff is still very vignette based. You get the experiences of a character, and then the time jumps so radically that the events still have impact down the road, but they don't have, you know, it's not a direct correlation kind of thing. And then with Convoy 12, you do get that sort of through line narrative. So you could, in theory, split this off into 2 little tiny books, but I think it was a brilliant decision to keep them tied together. The characters on Convoy 12, I think, probably resonate with you more. At least they did for me, just because with a linear narrative, you know, you spend more time with them. Like, you spend more time with Varney Kapoor, who is like the main person on Convoy 12, You know, you spend more time with her than you do any of the characters individually on Convoy 7. Even though, you know, Jamal Caden is like, he's a big Convoy 7 character, and he like comes up time and time and time again, but it's a different Jamal, so it's not quite the same guy. So it's kind of hard to explain, but hopefully I did it all right there. Like I really love this book. Like, my Goodreads review right now at the time of filming this just says wow, because when I finished it, it was really late at night. I couldn't write a proper review, and I was trying to find the words for just how good this book really is. And I think it's a shame, because I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that the original Noumenon didn't do as well as I would have hoped. The original I've got over there in hardcover. This book obviously is paperback. I don't think it came out in hardcover, because I bought it like a week after release, and there's only paperbacks available, so I don't know if it did so good, and it doesn't have any fucking fake stickers on it, so you know it's not a bestseller or an upcoming Netflix series. But you know, reviews like this are designed to change that. So if you want a truly representative, diverse, interesting science fiction story that harkens back to some of the old themes of ambitious exploration and going where no one has gone before, pick up Noumenon, pick up Noumenon Infinity, and enjoy the bloody ride, because it's really fucking good. I will see you tomorrow with my top 5 fantasy books, not fantasy books, but top 5 science fiction books at the moment. Obviously, that's always subject to change. And yeah, I'll speak to you then. So see you later. Bye.